Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Marie and Dizon, and this is Strategic Management, the topic number 6. Since September 7, 2001, General Electric or GE CEO was Jeffrey Immelt. By then, external environment continuously changed and affect the businesses. External environment factors that affects GE, the 9/11 tragedy. The impact of GE Aviation was immediate. Jeff Immelt, who had replaced the retiring Jack Welch as GE President and CEO for only 4 days before the 9/11, and Dave Calhoun, head of the GE Aviation for only 9 months, had to move quickly to protect the company's aviation enterprise during a time of extraordinary uncertainty. A business assessment was quickly made and difficult internal action followed. Within days of the terrorist attack, Calhoun and Chuck Chadwell, Vice President of Commercial Engines, held an impromptu meeting on the lawn of Building 100 at the GE Aviation Avondale, Ohio headquarters, to share with nervous employees the information they had gathered from the customer. Second, the global financial crisis, or GFC. The global financial crisis refers to the period of extreme in global financial markets and banking system between mid-2007 and early 2009. During the GFC, a downturn in the U.S. housing market was a catalyst for a financial crisis that spread from the United States to the rest of the world through linkage in the global financial system. Many banks around the world incurred large losses and relied on government support to avoid a bankruptcy. Millions of people lost their jobs as the major advanced economies experienced their deepest recession since the Great Depression in the 1930s. Recovery from the crisis was also much slower than the past recessions that were not associated with a financial crisis. The external environment is composed of all the outside factors on influence, the impact, the operation of business. The macro environment consists of general factors that a business typically has no control over. The success of the company depends on its ability to adapt. The effects. First, the GE experienced deep recession from the events. The National Bureau of Economic Research, or NBER, defined a recession as a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months, normally visible in real gross domestic product, or GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. A recession is also said to be when business ceases to expand. The GDP diminishes for 2 consecutive quarters, the rate of unemployment rises, and housing price decline. Second, the GE capital took financial blow, which half of GE profit came from it. Next, the GE also lost its AAA credit rating, and the company had to ask for a $15 billion liquidity injection from famed investor Warren Buffett. Conglomerate General Electric Co. lost its perfect credit rating when rating agency Standard & Poor's and downgraded the company. S&P said it lowered the company rating to AA+ from AAA because it expects the worsening economy to cause GE holding the deteriorate in value. So then, Mr. Immelt made changes, refocuses GE portfolio of business, and identified the clean technology sector and healthcare as a major future growth industries. To capitalize on this opportunity, GE launched 2 strategic initiatives, the Eco-Imagination and the Health Imagination. The Eco-Imagination is a means from promoting renewable energy sources and developing new technology to reduce carbon emissions. The Health Imagination is our business strategy that seeks to help people live healthier lives, support customer success, and help GE grow. Then Immelt said that means lower cost technology for more customer product matches to specific local needs and process expertise to help customer wins. Then Defining the corporate strategy. First, the business strategy. The business strategy answers how to compete in a single product market group of similar product distributed on the same channel. Or a business strategy is an outline of the action and decision a company plans to take reach its business's goals and objective. The strategy defines what the business needs to do to reach its goals, which can help guide the decision-making process for hiring and resources allocation. As firms grow, corporate strategies are formulated. Business seeks new market and competes in different geographies. The corporate strategy. The decision that senior management makes and the goal-directed action it takes to gain and sustain competitive advantage in several industry and market simultaneously addresses where to compete along three dimensions: product and services, industry value chain, and geography, or the regional, national, or the global market. A corporate strategy entails a clearly defined long-term vision that organizations set, seeking to incorporate value and motivate the workforce to implement the proper action to achieve customer satisfaction. Next, the executive must decide in what stages of the industry value chain to participate. 2. What range of products and services to offer. 3. Where to compete in terms of regional, national, or international markets. Next, the strategic management. By the way, the strategic management involves setting objective, analyzing the competitive environment, analyzing the internal organization, evaluating strategy, and ensuring the management rolls out the strategy across the organization. And this is the strategic management concept that will guide our further discussion. First, the core competencies. Second, the economies of scale. The third is economies of scope. Then the last is transaction costs. First, the core competencies. Competencies are unique strength embedded deep within a firm capability or advantage that distinguish an enterprise from its competitors. A core competencies reflected into the operations of a company. The collaboration, communication, flexibility and adaptability, initiative, interpersonal skills, leadership skills, organization skill, and problem-solving skills. Then this is an example of core competencies. Example, the company Amazon.com. Their core competencies providing the largest section of item online combined with superior IT system and customer service. An application example. Expansion to cover most electronic media, digital downloads, tablet computer, Kindle series, as well as apparel, toys, electronic, tools, and each offering cloud computing services. The General Electric. Designing and implementing efficient management processes, developing and training leaders, leveraging deep industrial engineering expertise. The application example is the energy, healthcare, airplane, jet engines, and finance. The Coca-Cola. Their core competencies. Leveraging one of the world's most recognized brand names based on its original secret formula into a diverse lineup of soft drinks and other beverage. Then their application example was the Coke Zero, Diet Coke, Fanta, Fresca, Sprite, Dasani, Powerade, and each. Then the Facebook. Their core competencies. Connecting over 1 billion social media users worldwide. Their application example was Newsfeed, Timeline, and Graph Search. Then second, the economy scale. Occur when a firm's average cost per unit decreases as its output increases. An amount of Sony power is when a company buys so much of a product that it can be reduced its per unit cost. For example, Walmart's everyday low prices are due to its huge buying power. Managerial economies of scale occur when large firms can afford specialties. They more effectively manage particular areas of the company. Next, the economy scope. Economies of scope are the savings that come from producing two or more outputs or providing different services at less cost than producing each individually, though using the same resources and technology. Economies of scope is an economic concept that the unit cost to produce a product will decline as a variety of product increases. That is, the more different but similar good you produce, the lower the total cost produce each one. For example, let's say that you are a shoe manufacturer. And this is the example. Let's say you are the shoe manufacturer produces men and women's sneakers. Adding a children's line of sneaker would increase economies of scope because you can use the same production equipment, supply, storage, and distribution channels to make a new line of products. That will further reduce the cost of production on all shoes. Next, the transaction cost are all costs associated with an economic exchange is a cost in making an economic trade when participating in a market. Transaction costs are expenses incurred when buying or selling a good or services. In a financial sense, transaction costs include brokers, commission, and spreads, which are the difference between the price the dealer paid of a security and the price the buyer. And the boundaries of the firm, what determines whether a firm produces something in-house or used the market. The transaction cost economists explain and predicts the boundaries of the term.
Good day everyone, I'm Daisy Marie Mendoza and I'll be discussing the boundaries of the firm, what determines whether a firm produces something in-house or uses the market. In this part of the lesson, we will know if the firm produces something on their own or uses the market as a strategy in operating their business. Transaction cost economics explain and predicts the boundaries of the firm. Insight from transaction costs can help managers decide what activities to do in a house or what to obtain in the market. It means to measure a firm transaction activities on how far it can go with its resources in trading in the economy. Through this, corporate strategic managers decide and control their activities organization in producing or selling products. For example, the firm sells produce to a whole food store. There are transaction costs associated with sale of products versus credits you need to give the whole food store when the produce don't sell and go bad. If the produce sell well, you can use economics of scale and write off the scrap. For this, you have to ensure that the produced products are sold with high quality and low price so your ultimate transaction cost is lowered. Transaction cost includes internal and external costs associated with economic exchange, whether the firm or in the market. Meaning, it is minimizing the production cost within a firm or market, and through that, the corporate leaders or managers would decide to make a choice whether they use firm structure or source from the market by comparing transaction costs between internal and external production costs to see if there is a changes that happen. Internal transaction costs, costs pertaining to organizing an economic exchange within a hierarchy, also called administrative costs. Internal cost transaction is a multiple division of organizing on how to coordinate this division that make internal exchanges so they will achieve what is the best for the overall organization. This challenge is not merely a matter of communication, but providing proper motivation for individual units inside the organization. Next is internal transaction costs. Cost of searching for a firm or an individual with whom to contract, and then negotiating, monitoring, and enforcing the contract. External transaction cost is responsible in an exchange of resources between the organization and one or more external third parties. For example, a firm decided to expand their business by putting up another branch, and then the external department will look for investors, which is the external transaction cost. They will look for investors, stockholders, to offer contract to invest in the new branch of their business firm. And that's how the external transaction costs function in the organization. They are responsible in negotiating outside the organization. Firm A and Firm B represent internal transaction costs, while external transaction costs is the market. Internal transaction cost is a business transaction which is not undertaken with an external third party. External transaction is a result of internal functions of a business and may not involve exchange of resources. If it involves exchange of resources, it would be between internal departments of an organization or firm. Meanwhile, external transaction costs function in the market, because it is the one who negotiates outside the firm to offer the produced products or services. And through that, external transaction cost is benefited to the internal transaction cost. Firms versus market. Make or buy. Transaction cost economics allows us to explain which activities a firm should pursue in a house versus which goods and services to obtain externally. This decision help determine the boundaries of the firm. In some cases, cost of using the market such as search costs, negotiating, drafting contracts, monitoring work, and enforcing contracts when necessary may be higher than integrating the activity within a single firm and coordinating through an organizational hierarchy. It means in operating a business firm, the cost of it is more expensive rather than the cost in engaging into the market. When firms are more efficient in organizing economic activity than our markets, which rely only on contracts among many independent actors, firms should be vertically integrated. It means firms are more efficient in organizing economic activity because first, they can coordinate in the production while market cannot. Second, firms do not rely on economic scale while markets rely on it. Vertical integration only happens when the firm decide to extend their operation within their supply chain, and for that, it is possible that they would develop extended production line. Advantage of firms: the ability to command and control decision by fiat along clear hierarchical lines of authority. It means you have the right to command and control things in the firm because you are the owner, but of course, it should be taken legally. Coordinating of highly complex tasks to allow for a specialized division of labor. It means it is advantage to a firm to have skilled employees or people to perform in different departments to show off their skills because it helps them to know what they can contribute in the company or firm, and they will know what are their strengths and weaknesses. Transaction cost is specific investment such as specialized equipment that is highly valuable within the firm but a little no use of external market. For example of this was machinery such as computers and so on. Creation of community knowledge. It means inside the organization or firm, you could learn something from your coworkers that helps improve your skills and be motivated in your performance. The disadvantage of organizing economic within the firms include administrative costs because of necessary bureaucracy. For example, promoting health benefit, insurance, and others to their employees for their security. Low-powered incentives such as hourly wages and salaries. These often are less attractive motivators than the entrepreneurial opportunities and rewards that can be obtained in the open market. It reflects to the employees of the firm. Because for example of this, you work overtime but the firm did not pay you. The principal agent problem. The principal agent problem is a major disadvantage of organizing economic activity within firms. As opposed to within markets, it can arise when an agent such as manager performing activities on behalf of the principal pursues his or her own interest. The separation of ownership and control is one of the hallmarks of a publicly traded company, and so some degree of the principal agent problem is inevitable. The advantage of markets. High-powered incentives. Rather than work as salaried engineer for an existing firm, for example, an individual can start a new venture offering specialized software. High-power incentive of the open market include entrepreneurs' ability to capture the venture's profit, to take a new venture to an initial public offering IPO, or to be acquired by an existing firm. In this so-called liquidity event, a successful entrepreneur can make potentially enough money to provide financial security for life. It means when you engage in a market, you could earn more profit and you own your time and resources. Increased flexibility. Transacting in markets enables those who wish to purchase goods to compare prices and services among many different providers. You have the chance to choose products and goods from different merchants. Disadvantage of markets include search costs. On a very fundamental level, perhaps the biggest disadvantage of transacting markets rather than owning various production and distribution activities within the firm itself entails non-trivial search costs. It means when we say search costs, it will include the financial and opportunity cost of time and energy spent in such activities. Next, opportunism by other parties. Opportunism is behavior characterized by self-interest seeking with guilt. It means you have a lot of competitors and can lead them to sabotage you. For example, sale of products. Then, the other parties will have a sale of products also, but in a lower pricing. Incomplete contracting. Although market transactions are based on implicit and explicit contracts, all contracts are incomplete to some extent because not all future contingencies can be anticipated at the time of contracting. It's somehow just like a temporary business. Enforcement of contracts is often difficult, costly, and time-consuming to enforce legal contracts. Not only does litigation absorb a significant amount of managerial resources and attention, but it can easily amount to several $million in legal fees. Legal exposure is one of the major hazards in using markets rather than integrating an activity within a firm's hierarchy. Enforcement of contract, for example, your business violated the law, and the authority will enforce your contract to not operate your business anymore in the market.
Good day everyone, I am Lourdes Dumalag and I'm going to report about the vertical integration along value chain. Vertical integration. The firm's ownership of its production of needed inputs or the channels by which it distributes its output. So, vertical integration is a strategy which companies use where they own or control the suppliers, distributors, or retailers to control its value chain. In here, company can control the process of production, reduce the cost, and improve the efficiencies. The example of vertical integration is Weyerhaeuser. This is one of the world's largest paper and pulp companies. All of the activities were conducted within the boundaries of the firm. Weyerhaeuser owns forests, grows trees, and do all the operation in the making of paper and pulp, such as manufacturing variety of papers and construction products that they distribute in their retail stores and other large customers. That's why they are also called fully vertical integrated. Weyerhaeuser is called fully vertically integrated because their business conducted all of the operation within their firm. Industry value chain, also called vertical value chain, is the depiction of the transformation of raw materials into finished goods and services along distinct vertical stages. Industry value chain shows the different processes that is involved in producing goods and services. The industry value chain has 5 stages, which are the raw materials, component and intermediate goods, final assembly and manufacturing, marketing and sales, and lastly, after-sales services and support. So these stages plays a different role in industry value chain. So this is what I found in the book. Example here is the cell phone that we always use. The raw materials to make your cell phone, such as chemicals, ceramics, metals, oil for plastics, and so on, are commodities. In each of these commodity businesses are different companies, such as DuPont in US, BASF in Germany, Kyocera in Japan, and ExxonMobil in US. So next is intermediate goods and component, such as integrated circuits, displays, touchscreens, camera, and batteries are provided by the firms such as ARM Holdings in UK, Jabil Circuit in US, Intel in US, LG Display in Korea, Altec in Taiwan, and BYD in China. Is original equipment manufacturing firms or OEMs such as Flextronics in Singapore or Foxconn in China. They typically assembled cell phone under contract for consumer electronics and telecommunication companies such as BlackBerry in Canada, Ericsson in Sweden, Motorola in US, Nokia in Finland, Samsung in South Korea, and others. If you look closely at an iPhone, you'll notice that it says designed by Apple in California, assembled in China. Because if you didn't know, Foxconn, which is based on China, it is the one who assembled the iPhone, and the Apple only designed it and sells it. So finally, to get wireless data and voice service, you'll pick a service provider such as AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, or Verizon in the United States of America, Movil in Mexico, OI in Brazil, Orange in France, T-Mobile or Vodafone in Germany, NTT Docomo in Japan, Airtel in India, or China Mobile in China. So the next one is the 2 types of vertical integration. We have backward and forward vertical integration. First is the backward vertical integration. it changes in an industry value chain that involves moving ownership of activities upstream to the organizing inputs point of the value chain. When we say backward vertical integration, it is when the firm gains ownership or increased control over its previous supplier. Forward vertical integration changes in an industry value chain that involve moving ownership of activities closer to the end point of the value chain. And when we say forward vertical integration, it is when the firm gains ownership or increased control over its previous customers, such as distributors or retailers. So I have this diagram to show you the backward integration and forward integration. So my example here is, as I said earlier, Apple is the one who designed the Apple phone and Foxconn is the one who assembled it, and Apple is the one who sells it. Apply the backward and forward vertical integration in these two companies. On the other hand, if Apple start manufacturing and assembling their own product and sell it on their own, that's what you call backward vertical integration. Because if they start manufacturing it and assembling it, that's when the backward vertical integration happens. So my last topic is about benefits and risks of vertical integration. This is where the managers need to understand the possible benefits and risks of vertical integration in order for them to decide the degree and the type of vertical integration to pursue. Benefits of vertical integration. Vertical integration, either backward or forward, can have a number of benefits, including securing critical supplies and distribution channels. Vertical integration secures critical supplies and distribution channels because they can have access to raw materials. Second is lowering costs. Vertical integration can lower the cost because it avoids transaction costs like in delivery service because they can put up a retail store near from its cost. Third is improving quality. Vertical integration can improve the quality of the product because they are the one who controls the production. Fourth is facilitating scheduling and planning. Vertical integration can facilitate the schedule and planning because all the work is done by just one firm rather than having other partners. Last is facilitating investment in specialized assets. Vertical integration can attract investment using a specialized asset. Specialized assets will be discussed by the next reporter.
Good day everyone, my name is Joanah Dionzon. I am the fourth reporter of this group. I will discuss about the three types of specialized assets. But first, what is specialized assets? Specialized assets are unique assets with high opportunity cost. They have significantly more value in their intended use than in their next base use. Specialized assets are defined as an asset which has feature or aspect that makes it useful or one or a few specific purposes only. Customized computer software is an example of highly specific asset. The oil and gas industry, the airline industry, and the manufacturing sector are all high asset specificity. Oil drills, jetliners, and assembly lines are not easily or cheaply adapted to the other purposes. How is specialized asset measured? Asset specificity measured following Beron 2013. Asset specificity was measured as the natural logarithm of the ratio of the book value of a buying firm's property, plant, and equipment to the number of employees. They come in three types: site specificity, physical asset specificity, and human asset specificity. First, site specificity. These are assets required to be collocated, such as equipment necessary for mining, bauxite, and aluminum smelt. Next, physical asset specificity. These are assets whose physical and engineering properties are designed to satisfy a particular customer, such as bottling machinery for Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. Since the bottles have different and often trademark shapes, they require unique molds. Cans, in contrast, do not require physical asset specificity because they are generic. Next, human asset specificity. This is the last specialized asset. Investments made in human capital to acquire unique knowledge and skills such as mastering the routines and procedure of the specific organization, which are not transferable to a different employer. Why do investment is a specialized asset tend in incur high opportunity cost? Making the specialized investment opens up threat of opportunism. Why do investment in specialized asset tend to incur high opportunity cost? Making the specialized investment opens up the threat of opportunism by one of the partners. Opportunism is defined as self-interest seeking in guilt. Backward vertical integration is often undertaken to overcome the threat of opportunism and in securing key raw materials. In an offer to secure supplies and reduce the cost of jet fuel, Delta was the first airline to acquire an oil refinery. In 2012, it purchased a Pennsylvania-based facility from ConocoPhillips. Delta estimates that this backward vertical integration move not only will allow it to provide 80% of its fuel internally, but will also save it's some $300 million in costs annually. Fuel costs are quite significant for airlines. For Delta, they are almost 40% of its total operating costs.
So next, risk of vertical integration. Depending on the situation, there are different vertical integration risks. First, increasing costs, reducing quality, reducing flexibility, and last, increasing the potential for legal repercussion. A higher degree of vertical integration can lead to increasing costs for a number of reasons. In-house suppliers tend to have a higher cost structures because they are not exposed to market competition. Knowing there will always be a buyer for their products, it reduces their incentives to lower costs. In contrast, suppliers in open market, because they serve a much larger market and can achieve economies of scale that elude in-house suppliers. Organizational complexity increases with higher levels of vertical integration, thereby increasing administrative costs such as determining the appropriate transfer prices between in-house supplier and buyer. Administrative costs are part of internal transaction costs and arise from the coordination of multiple divisions, political maneuvering for resources, and consumption of company perks, or simply for employers lacking off. The knowledge that there will always be a buyer for their products not only reduces the incentive of in-house suppliers to lower costs, but also can reduce the incentives to increase quality or come up with innovative new products. Moreover, given their larger scale and greater exposure to more customers, external suppliers often can reap higher learning and experience effect and so develop unique capabilities or quality improvements. A higher degree of vertical integration can also reduce firms' strategic flexibility, especially when faced with changes in the external environment like fluctuation in demand and technological change. For instances, when technological process innovation enabled significant improvements in steel making, mills such as US Steel and Bethlehem Steel were tied to their fully integrated business models and were thus unable to switch technologies, leading to the bankruptcy of many integrated steel mills. Non-vertical integrated mini mills such as Nucor and Chaparral, on the other hand, invested in the new steel-making process and grew their business by taking market shares away from the less flexible integrated producer. U.S. regulators such as the Federal Trade Commission or FTC and the Justice Department or the DOJ tend to allow vertical integration, arguing that it generally makes firms more efficient and lower cost, which in turn can benefit customers. However, due to monopoly concern, vertical integration has not gone entirely unchallenged. The FTC, for example, carefully reviewed PepsiCo's plans to reintegrate its two largest bottlers, which gives the firm full control about the 80% of North American distribution. Before engaging in vertical integration, therefore, managers need to be aware that these corporate strategies can increase the potential for legal repercussion.
Next topic is alternatives to vertical integration. One alternative to vertical integration is taper integration. It is a way of orchestrating value activities in which firms is backwardly integrated, but it also relies on outside market firms for some of its supplies, and or is forwardly integrated but also relies on outside market firms for some of distribution. The firm sources intermediate goods and components from in-house suppliers as well as outside suppliers. In a similar fashion, a firm sells its products through company-owned retail outlets and through independent retailers. Both Apple and Nike, for example, use taper integration. They own retail outlets but also use other retailers, both the brick and mortar type and online. There are several benefits of taper integration. It exposes in-house suppliers and distributors to make competition so that performance comparison are possible, rather than hollowing out its competencies by relying too much on outsourcing. Taper integration allows a firm to retain and fine-tune incompetencies in upstream and downstream value chain activities. Taper integration can also enhance a firm's flexibility. For example, when adjusting to fluctuation in demand, a firm could cut back on the finished goods it delivers to external retailers while continuing to stock its own stores. Next, using taper integration, firms can combine internal and external knowledge, possibly paving the path of innovation. Next, strategic outsourcing. It is another alternative to vertical integration. It involves moving one or more internal value chain activities outside the firm's boundary to the other firms in the industry of value chain. A firm engaged in strategic outsourcing reduces its level of vertical integration. Rather than developing their own human resource management system, for instance, some firms outsource these non-core activities to companies such as PeopleSoft. It is owned by the Oracle, EDS or EDS owned by HP, and Perot System owned by Dell, which can leverage their deep competencies and produce scale effect. In the popular media, in every conversation, you may hear the term outsourcing. It used to mean sending jobs out of the country. Actually, when outsourced activity take place outside the home country, the correct term is offshoring by whatever name. It is a huge phenomenon. For example, Infosys, one of the world's largest technology companies and providers of IT services to many Fortune 100 companies. It is located in Bangalore in India. The global offshoring market is estimated by $1.4 trillion and it is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 15%. Banking and financial services, IT, and healthcare are the most active sectors in such offshore outsourcing. Banking and financial services, IT, and healthcare are the most active sectors in such offshore outsourcing. More recently, U.S. law firms began to offshore law and legal work, such as drafting standard contract background research to India. So next, corporate diversification expanding beyond a single market. These are various general diversification strategies. A firm is active in several different product markets in pursuing product diversification strategy.
A firm that is active in several different countries is pursuing a geographic diversification strategy. A company that pursues both a product and a geographic diversification strategy simultaneously follows and product market diversification strategy. Because shareholders expect continuous growth from public companies, managers frequently turn to product and geographic diversification to achieve it. It is therefore not surprising that the vast majority of the Fortune 500 companies are diversified to some degree. Achieving performance gains through diversification, however, is not guaranteed. Some forms of diversification are more likely to lead to performance improvement than others. My co-member will discuss which diversification types are more likely to lead to a competitive advantage and why.
Types of corporate diversification. In Exhibit 8.7, it shows the different types of diversification. First, the single business. A strategy that exists when a company derives more than 95% of its revenue from a single business. You rely on one product or a product line. Second, the dominant business. A company that generates between 70 and 95% of their sales within a single category. Dominant business operations in one key industry and then expand the firm by purchasing business or creating new firms. Related diversification. Related diversification. It is less than 70% revenue comes from the dominant business and all business share same product, technological, and distribution lineages. Related constraint diversification is a kind of diversification which executives pursue only businesses where they can apply the resources and core competencies already available in the primary business. Related link diversification. It is only limited links or relationships between the firm's businesses. The executives pursue various businesses opportunities that share only a limited number of linkages. The unrelated diversification. It is no competency linkages in product, services, technology, or distribution between businesses. It helps a firm gain and sustain a competitive advantage because it allows the conglomerate to overcome institutional weaknesses in emerging economies. Leveraging core competencies for corporate diversification. Core competence market matrix, a framework to guide corporate diversification strategy by analyzing possible combinations of existing or new core competencies and existing new markets. Core competencies are the resources and capabilities that comprise the strategic advantages of a business. It defined as a harmonized combination of multiple resources and skills that distinguish a firm in the marketplace, therefore are the foundation of company's competitiveness. Identifying and exploiting core competencies is seen as important for a new business making its mark or an established company trying to stay competitive. Once managers have a clear understanding of their firm's core competencies, they have 4 options to formulate corporate strategy. First, leveraging core competencies to improve current market position. Second, build new core competencies to protect and extend current market position. Third, redeploy and recombine existing core competencies to compete in the markets of the future. Fourth, build new core competencies to create and compete in markets of the future. Corporate diversification in firm performance. Corporate diversification
In firm performance, corporate managers pursue diversification to gain and sustain competitive advantage. The diversification performance relationship is a function of the underlying type of diversification. A cumulative body of research indicates an inverted U-shaped relationship between the type of diversification and overall firm performance. Managers should have knowledge of causality between the extent of diversification and firm performance and know that both the variables affect each other simultaneously. Exhibit 8.9, it shows the diversification performance relationship.
Good day everyone, I'm Angielyn Mitas from FM2, the last reporter of group number 6, which is all about the corporate strategy. So let us first define what is the word diversification. So diversification is a corporate strategy to enter into a new products or new product lines, new services or new markets, involving substantially different skills, technology, and knowledge. So now let's proceed to diversification discount. Diversification discounts holds in developed economies with developed capital markets. Diversification discounts, it is the situation in which the stock price of highly diversified firms is valued at less than the sum of their individual business units. So diversification discounts, also called the conglomerate discounts or holding the company discount, that is refers to a situation in which the value of stock of a conglomerate is lower than the sum of different businesses. So it means that the conglomerates is selling at a discount relative to its fundamental value. One of the example of this is diversified group of a company or companies. While on the diversification premium, it is the situation in which the stock price of related diversification firms is valued of greater than the sum of their individual business units. So a corporate strategy enhances firms' performance when its value creation is greater than the cost it incurs. In addition to that, the conglomerate or diversification premium is the additional return that investors can achieve by effectively diversifying their portfolio across a range of asset classes. So as you can see on the table or an example, it is the list of sources of value creation and sources of cost for different corporate strategies, such as vertical integration and as well as the related and unrelated diversification. So in diversification, to enhance firm performance, it must do at least one of the following. First is to provide economies of scope, which reduces cost. Second, exploit economies of scope, which increase value. And lastly is to reduce cost and increase value. So when pursuing a diversification strategy, businesses may boost their efficiency by benefiting from financial economies, including the restructuring and the using internal capital markets. But before that, let us first define what is restructuring. Restructuring describes the process of reorganizing and divesting business units and activities to refocus a company in order to leverage its core competencies more fully. So, based on my research, restructuring means that it has taken place at GE, or GE means General Electric, or it is a multi-factor analysis that helps strategic business units evaluate its overall strength. So, to leverage its core competency in management processes and industrial engineering, so the Anheuser Batch InBev, or commonly known as AB and InBev, recently sold Batch Entertainment. InBev is a multinational drink and brewing company based in Leuven, Belgium. Its theme park unit that owns Sea World and Batch Gardens to a group of private investors for roughly $3 billion. This strategic more allows InBev to focus more fully on its core business and to pay for its 2008 acquisition of Anheuser Batch, which is cost $52 billion. Boston Consulting Group, or BCG Growth Shape Matrix. a corporate planning tool in which the corporation is viewed as a portfolio of business units which are represented graphically along relative market share, horizontal axis, and speed of market growth, vertical axis. SBUs are plotted into 4 categories, which is the dog, the cash cow, stars, and the question mark, each of which warrants are a different investment strategy. So, the corporate executives can restructure the portfolio of their firm's businesses, much like an investors can change a portfolio of stocks. Furthermore, one helpful tool to guide corporate portfolio planning is the BCG or the Boston Consulting Group. So, as you can see on that illustration, they have 4 categories, which is the question mark, the star, the dog, and the cash cow. So, therefore, all of each 4 categories warrants a different investment strategy or the shape firm's corporate strategy. SBU means Strategic Business Unit. SBUs identified as a dogs are relatively easy to identify. They are the underperforming businesses. Dogs holds a small market in a low-growth market. They have low and unstable earnings combined with neutral or negative cash flows. The strategic recommendations are either to divest the business or to harvest it. This implies stopping investment in the business and squeezing out as much as cash flows as possible before shutting it down or selling it. However, in cash cows, SBUs compete in a low-growth market but hold considerable market share. Their earnings and cash flows are high and stable. The strategic recommendation is to invest enough into a cash cows to hold their current position and to avoid having them turn into dogs, which is as indicated by the arrow. While on the corporations or the star, SBUs hold a high market shares in a fast-growing market. Their earnings are high and either stable or growing. The recommendations for the corporate strategy is to invest sufficient resources to hold the star's positions or even increase investments for future growth. As indicated by the arrow, the stars may turn into cash cows as the market in which the SBU is situated slowed down due to reaching the maturity stage of the industry life cycles. And lastly, some SBUs are the question mark. As you can see, it is not clear whether they will return into dogs or the stars. But their earnings are low or unstable, but they might be growing. The cash flow, although is negative, ideally corporate executives want to invest in question marks to increase their relative market share so they turn into dog. In this case, executives would want to harvest the cash cows or divest the SBU. So, the second financial economies includes the using internal capital markets. The using internal capital markets can be a source of value creation in a diversification strategy if the conglomerate's headquarters does a more efficient job of allocating capital through its budgeting process than what could be achieved in external capital markets. So, according to private information, corporate managers are in a position to discover which of their strategic business units will provide the highest return on invested capital. At the same time, internal capital markets may allow the company to assess capital at a lower cost. In 2009, GE lost its AAA debt rating and is now in the process of downsizing its finance unit. The lower debt rating and the smaller finance unit are likely to result in a higher cost of capital and thus a potential loss in value creation through internal capital markets. So, a strategy of related constraint or related link diversification is highly possible to enhance corporate performance than either a single or dominant level of diversification or an unrelated level of diversification. So, the reason is that the sources of value creation include not only restructuring, but more fundamentally the potential benefits of economies of scope and scale. To create additional value, however, the benefits from these sources of incremental value creation must overweight their cost. So, there are some types of cost related to diversification strategy. So, first is the coordination cost and second one is the influence cost. Coordination costs are the function of a number, size, and types of a business that are linked to one another. In addition to coordination cost, it is how collaborating firms needs to work together to execute an interdependent activity. While on the second one, influence cost. Influence cost is occurred due to political maneuvering by managers to influence capital and resource allocation in the resulting inefficiencies stemming from suboptimal allocation of scarce resources. Further, influence cost is the cost within an organization that result when managers spend time and efforts seeking to influence the decision being made by their superiors in favor of an organization subunits within which the managers works. And that's all. Thank you.